Hey, what is up guys? It has been a little while, but guess what? We have finally done it. We've hit 15,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you guys. I really appreciate it, and I am going to now read off the winner of the $100 giveaway for hitting 15,000 subscribers. I'm gonna go ahead and do another giveaway when I hit 20,000 subscribers, but I need your guys' help to do that. I need you to comment, share, like all of my videos if possible, so we can get to that next step, and maybe I'll keep giving away more and more money as we go. Alright, I'm not gonna make you guys sit through the whole video to figure out who the winner is. So the winner is, are you ready? He commented on, I went ahead and picked the video that I talked about doing the 15,000 subscriber giveaway on, and here is the winner. It is Carp Diem. That's Carp Diem. Not sure if I'm saying it right, but I appreciate you commenting on my video. I've noticed you've commented on other videos when I went ahead and looked through here, and I really appreciate that. And that's really how this channel is going to grow, is from you guys kind of sticking out and hanging out and putting up with some of my maybe boring content on some days, but maybe some videos are better than others. So I appreciate you, and I'll be sending you that $100. I hope it helps you out, especially because of what's going on right now in the world. But yeah, so that's awesome. So I've got the Supra and the Lambo out today. Give you guys a quick walk around on them while I've got them out. A nice sunny day here in Florida. But I really appreciate you guys subscribing and commenting, and that's awesome that I was able to do this little giveaway, and we're gonna do it again at 20,000 subscribers, and you know, maybe we'll keep upping the ante. Really appreciate you guys. Now on to the rest of the video. So for the clutch, I went with the Southbend Stage 3 Endurance clutch. It's a good all-around affordable clutch for the Supra platform. Holds about 750 horsepower or so. For the flywheel, I went with a dual mass flywheel instead of refinishing mine. At this point, the exhaust has already been taken off the car, and I'm starting the process of removing the drive shaft so that we can pull the transmission to pull the clutch out. On the back half, you've got to remove the 3 bolts that go to the differential. They're kind of on there pretty tight, so what I generally do if I don't have long wrenches is I'll grab a couple extra wrenches and kind of configure them like this, and it makes it a lot easier to break the bolts free. As you could see in the video, and I got a ratchet wrench on one end. Left the handbrake down so I could easily just spin the drive shaft around to get to all 3 of those. If you look at the bushings on my diff, they're solid aluminum bushings. I don't recommend these. If you can, try and stick with the OEM style bushings. When you run these solid bushings, you end up getting a whining noise on deceleration and sometimes acceleration, and it could be pretty annoying, honestly. And there's just really no need for it. The factory Toyota bushings are perfectly fine for most situations. At this point, I'm just removing all the bolts that I just loosened. It's just the 3 of them that go into the diff that you've got to take off. No big deal. Get those bolts out, you just have to take the 4 bolts out in the front where the transmission is, and then you can kind of pry that out of there. I like to leave the 2 bolts on the carrier bearing still lightly in place, just so the drive shaft doesn't fall on you. And I had to use a pro bar to disconnect it from the differential because it was kind of a tight fit in there, and that rusts, you know, a little bit over time, and it gets kind of wedged in there. So then you can just go ahead and remove the bolts on the carrier bearing, and once those are out, there's 2 little washers above it. They'll most likely just fall on the ground. You can pick them up later, and the drive shaft's out. To access the pressure plate bolts, you've just got to take the dust covers off the side of the transmission. As you can see, we've got the slave cylinder off, just kind of hanging out there. And as you can see, Mike's doing the 2 wrench method and breaking loose those pressure plate bolts. I think there was 6 of them, it might have been 7, but I'm pretty sure it was 6. And you pretty much just do that on all of them, and just keep, I had a wrench on the crank pulley, and I was just spinning it around for him as he went bolt to bolt. Pretty straightforward there, honestly. In this shot, we're just moving the crank back and forth, and you can see how much movement there is in play in the dual mass flywheel. That's why you're better off just replacing it with a new one instead of trying to resurface your original one. Here we've got the transmission just about ready to come out, just giving it a couple little nudges with the pry bar, and Mike's going to spin the crank a little to kind of break free the clutch there a little bit, and there we go, it's spinning freely, so now it should come right off, and we're just kind of wiggling it back and forth, and boom, it's off. So now at this point you just make sure there's no wires or anything connected to the trans and just start lowering it down. Just take your time with it, make sure it's not hanging up on anything. And as you can see, it's just came right out, not too bad. So here we can see the pressure plate and the clutch. Obviously the clutch has some glazing on it and some wear, but I mean it wasn't slipping or anything. It was holding up pretty good for the little bit of power I was making. The stock clutches, handle I think I was making 464, so and they can handle quite a bit actually for being a stock clutch. You can see a lot of marks and whatnot on the pressure plate and a lot of heat spots on the flywheel. And other than that, it doesn't look too bad. Other than the play in it that we mentioned earlier, the pilot bearing doesn't look too bad either. Mike's marking a couple spots on the flywheel so we can see how much side-to-side play there is, and you can see it turned quite a bit, and he's turning it pretty easily too by hand. The new one was a lot tougher to turn, and it didn't turn anywhere near that amount. So it looked like it ended up being 1.25 inches or so of play, which isn't good. As you can see how easy it was for him to just turn it back and forth. Shouldn't be that free to turn. So we took the C-clip off to release the pressure plate, which was not too bad, and as you can see it came right off. And you can see the inside of the trans there. It's a little dirty, a little dusty, but we sprayed it out with brake cleaner, cleaned up pretty well. As you can see, there's some washers in the back of the pressure plate, and you can see we already put the rear main seal in, and we are putting on the new flywheel. The factory bolts that you buy new come with Loctite, but we added a little bit more on, and then you can see me there torquing them down, trying to go in a crisscross pattern, and then at the end I just end up going around in a circular motion just to make sure I got them all. This is the first torque. Then you end up having to do, I think it's like 90-degree turn afterwards, so I was just doing the first torque amount. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. I'll probably put it down in the description of the video. But Mike had this really nice electric torque wrench, which is the first time I think I've used one of those, and it was definitely very, very handy. And as you'll see later in the video, it's able to do the 90-degree turn, and you don't have to do the full 90. Like it knows when you stopped, so you can restart again.
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
As you just saw, it was pretty neat that you can just set it for 90 degrees, and you could see that I stopped halfway in between, including this shot here, and it just takes track of where you're at, and I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely different than my cheap regular torque wrenches, so it's pretty neat, and it being nice and long like that gave a lot of leverage and just made this whole process much, much easier. And at this point it was getting pretty late. I think it might have been like 10 o'clock at night or something. We ended up getting it done that night, but the rest of the video kind of shortens and we don't really have as much in it just because it was getting late, and filming takes a lot more time, and we just wanted to get it done so I could go home and he could go, and so yeah. But the last few of them with the torque wrench, I think we did the pressure plate bolts with the small torque wrench because it was in Newton meters, I think, which I don't remember what that was either off the top of my head. But yeah, so there's torquing the flywheel on. Oh, and I forgot to mention, while you're doing this, if you could see me doing it just there, is marking all the bolts with a marker. You could put like just like a line on it or something. This way, as you know for sure that you had torqued it to the full amount. I think the ending amount on all these torques, because it adds it up after you do the 90 degrees, is they came in around 101 to 110 foot-pounds of torque. But I would still go with the OEM recommendations, which is, once again, I forget what the torque spec was, but you tighten it to a certain amount and then you do the 90 degrees after. Toyota seems to have that set up on a lot of the things. I remember even the head bolts are the same way. It's like a certain torque spec and then you go 90 degrees after that. So this tool just makes it super easy, and marking them just makes sure you don't forget, because we've all been there. You know, you're tired and worn out and you're like, oops, which one did I torque? So just make sure you hit them with the marker so you know for sure. Next step was going ahead and putting the flywheel back onto the transmission. It was a bit of a pain getting this clip back on, but with the right tool it makes it a whole lot easier. At this point we were both pretty tired and just wanting to get this done, so kind of stopped filming shortly after this, pretty much once we got that clip back in. Here I am messing with that clip, which took a while to get in, but once it was in, it was in. And then we went ahead and started to put the transmission back on, and we slipped the clutch in there, and we got it done. Now if you're curious, clutch pedal feel, it was actually softer than stock, and it pretty much just drives and handles like a stock clutch. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's not like weird to drive it or anything. It just feels like a normal stock clutch, but just holds a buttload of power. So pretty happy with them.